أحمد خلاص بنبدأ بسم الله. Our fourth session today, which is best of the rest, but we will start with the presentation of Dr. Badib because it was postponed. It is which is about impact of Yemen war on medical professional. Start. يلا أحمد. Go ahead.
يلا
خلاص دكتور أحمد قد عرفوه من الصباح ما في داعي.
يلا مهندس أحمد.
خليه
يلا وين؟ هذه الشاشة حق أصحاب عدن ولا إيش دي؟ طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن والاه. We try to conduct screening for the impact of Yemen war on health professionals in Yemen. This work is shared work between me and Prof. Amin Bawazir and Prof. Ali Batarfi. Can you move the slides from your side? Yeah, so the background, Yemeni war has severely impacted medical professionals, exposing them to attacks, harassment, and chronic salary suspensions. The conflict has caused a critical shortage of medicines and equipment, worsening outbreak of disease like cholera and diphtheria. This study aims to identify the specific effects of the war on medical professionals, their resulting needs, and the expected consequences. Next. Next, please. Yeah, the methods. Quickly, please. Next. This study employed a self-administered online questionnaire distributed through WhatsApp to gather data from Yemeni medical professionals, primarily university faculty. The questionnaire comprising 8 sections, including demographic information, which was completed voluntarily, and data analysis was conducted using SPSS statistical software. Next. Results. Next. So the responders were 84% males. Next. And the academic degree, we have 35% of them full professors, 28% associate professors, and 35 assistant professors, and the remaining others. Next. The position, we have almost 42% of them. They were academic staff, but without leadership position. We have 28% head of the department. We have 14% of the sample was dean, and 12% vice dean. Next, please. Yeah, and basic versus clinical staff, we have almost 58% of them, they were clinicians, while 42% basic science. Next, please. The top represented universities, Sana'a, 23%, then Aden, 19%, then Hadramaut, 21%, Aden, 18.6%, Marib, 7%, and the others. We covered almost all the university medical schools public and private. Next, please. We ended up that 42% of the medical professionals, they were working on active conflict zone. So this is the distribution of the medical staff. Next, please. And 60% of them, they reported restrictions and changes to teaching at their schools due to the war. Next, please. And they described that the main challenges that they were facing and they are facing, mainly financial. 76% of the faculty were suffering from the financial problems. The second problem that we described was educational process suspension and affection, which was 53% of the cases. Then the social and family issues in 50% of the cases, and psychological insult was found in 37% of the cases. 11% of the faculty, they exposed to physical injury related to the war. Next, please. Now, 90% of the staff, they reported that there is significantly impacted mental health and increased stress due to the war. So mental health and also the emotional part affected. Next, please. And 77%, they have increased levels of anxiety. Next, please. And almost 70% of the staff, they describe it that the war has a negative impact on their families. Next, please. And also, it is not only the family issue and social, but also the personal and career development. So 72% of the faculty, they describe it that the war affected negatively their personal development. Next, please. And 70% of the faculty, they describe it that they are feeling sense of insecurity, عدم الأمان, for them and their families. Next, please. And they describe it, 70% of them, that the war disturbed their education and self-training. Next, please. Now, what about the quality of healthcare? 88% of the staff, they describe it that the war has significantly affected the quality of healthcare. Next, please. And not only the quality, but also there is described by 86% of the staff that there is significantly disturbance in the essential medical supply. Next, please. 84% described or reported that the war has significantly affected the healthcare service in their community. Next. And they reported that they noted 80% of the staff, they described that they noted increased war-related injuries was expected. Next, please. Now, they said that also in 77% of the reported staff, they mentioned that there are some challenges in maintaining professional standard during the war. Next, please. And 70%, they said we failed to provide adequate health care for our patient. Now, another issue, which is the ethical part of the war. 63% of the staff, they said we are facing ethical dilemma during the war. So we cannot cope with the ethical code of ethics and stick to the ethical part of our job. Next, please. And they 84% of the, investigated team also, they say that there is damage to the healthcare infrastructure in their setting. Next, please. And they were described that also it is not only the shortage of medical supply, but also in 70% of the cases, there's shortage in the healthcare workers in the facility. So we are now facing crisis in the workers also. Next, please. Now 70% exposed to violence. الاعتداء والعنف اللي تعرضوا له الstaff also, it was in 70% of the cases. And they said it is not violence or threats during the health care, which is very serious point. Next, please. And 50% of the staff of the university, they displaced from their home. نزحوا من بيوتهم. Next, please. And also they, in 40% of them, they reached to stage that they cannot get health care in the new place of the displacement. Next, please. And 17%, we are lucky that it is in comparison with the other countries, the percentage of the discrimination in the displaced places was only 17%. They were feeling that they are not like the native people in the region. So there is some discrimination for the displaced people. Now, in 46%, they were facing some challenge in finding employment in their new place, the displaced area. Next, please. Now, they try to compensate for the lack of physical training to use the online way of teaching. So the lecturing was the main one at 83% as a mode of conduction of teaching online. 44% they were familiar with the seminars. Some of them, almost 40%, they conducted workshops. And these were the main modalities of the teaching. Next, please. So those who left the country, we are finishing almost. Go ahead quickly, Dr. Ahmed. 60% leaving the country, it was a difficult decision for them to make. Next, please. And 50% of them, they feel guilty about leaving the country. Next, please. And 45% of them, they face challenges in adopting the life in the new country. Next, please. And 60%, they said, we missed our country, and our community. 55%, they feel sense of loss of Yemen, or Yemen. Next, please. Now, 59%, they are uncertain about future career perspective outside Yemen. And so they are feeling frustrated and confused what will happen for them in their new place. Next, please. And so this reflected on the feeling of security. And now 50%, they are telling that the ongoing conflict and security preventing them from returning to Yemen. So it is mainly safety issue. So if things improved safety-wise, they will consider. Next, please. Despite of shortage of healthcare workers, 50% they describe it also they have difficulty in finding job opportunities in the country. Next, please. Now 36% of them has built a new life in the host country, and they hesitate to return. Next. The study limitation, we focused our sampling strategy on key stakeholders in medical education, and we did not involve all the healthcare professionals. The situation in Yemen has been constantly changing. Our findings might be influenced by events at the time of the data collection, which is changeable. Now, we received few responses from some schools in the affected zone. Thus, the measures described by the participant may be affected by the sampling methodology. Next, please. So the conclusion, and this is the last slide, there is significant negative impact of the war on the personal and professional lives. The majority of participants experienced financial hardships, displacement, social challenges, and psychological stress. The conflict severely impacted their mental health, career development, and overall well-being. So adopting to new countries has also been challenging for most of them, and 60% of them miss their country. So finally, we hope that our findings will help researchers and educators from abroad contribute to meeting Yemeni needs in medical education. And thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Ahmed. Now we will move to Dr. Suzanne Wheeler. She is going to talk about mentorship in undergraduate medical education. Suzanne Wheeler is an assistant professor in the Department of Medical Education in United Arab Emirates. She is coordinating the preclinical skills courses at the United Arab Emirates. So, Mr. Ahmed, you start. Suzanne? Are you with us, Suzanne? Yes, good, very good, yeah.
This presentation.
Hello, Suzanne, how are you? Suzanne, do you hear me? Suzanne, do you hear me? ما تسمعني يا أحمد. لا بس هي ظهرت هي معنا. She's online.
Good afternoon and welcome to this presentation on mentorship with undergraduate medical students. I'd like to thank the organisers for inviting me. My name is Dr. Susan Waller and I'm an assistant professor with the Department of Medical Education at the United Arab Emirates University. Thank you very much for joining. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We'll go ahead with our presentation. These are the things that we're going to cover today. We're going to cover an overview of the mentoring relationship, the difference between roles for the mentor, the advisor, and the coach, the mentoring process, what makes an effective mentor, what makes a successful mentee, the student, and talk about the mentor and the portfolio. So there you can see on the screen a definition by Fry about mentoring. So an experienced, highly regarded, empathetic person, that's the mentor, guides another individual, the mentee, in the development and re-examination of their own ideas, learning, and personal and professional development. So let's think about the different roles in mentoring. So we know the mentor and their focus is on the big picture, focusing on the personal and professional growth and development of the mentee, of the student. They are all about support and in exploring perspective. The advisor, however, is more a details person. So they focus on the logistics, on the study path, on the resources in the program and the processes of the student experience of the program, the nuts and bolts per se. How to navigate the system. Okay, many university courses, they will assign student advisors, but as you know, in medicine, we have one particular path usually. Perhaps later on in clinical years, there might be some ability to have electives, but in our case, we have a study path that is, and our students follow that. So this is more about the role of the mentor. And you might have heard the term coach. This is quite popular now in the medical education literature. And similar to a sports coach, it's really about focusing on a particular ability or capability of the student that requires some support. It is a student-led process, so it's the student that's looking for support, and it's goal-focused and maybe time and task-focused. So there are different types of mentoring formats. There is the formal, where the mentor is assigned, or there's matching between the mentor and the mentee, or it might be informal. So a student, medical student might have an informal mentor, maybe a friend of the family's who's in a particular specialty who has offered guidance to that medical student through their program, or someone they have met through their clinical practice. It may be faculty or peer mentoring that is supporting the students. So you will have heard of peer-assisted learning or the peer-assisted study scheme. Okay, so this is where a senior student supports a junior student. There could be individual or group mentoring, so it could be between the mentor and the mentee, or it could be a mentor mentoring a small group of students. Okay, So it could be layered as well too. So myself as a mentor, I could have a senior mentor mentor me, and then I would be mentoring the student, the mentee, but that student may also be mentored by a more senior student. So there's various layers of the mentoring relationship that can be established in the medical program, in the undergraduate medical program. Why do we value mentorship in medical education? Because it can support the development of the professional identity. So it is a means of supporting that professional socialization, which we know, if that is healthy, is very important in our development in the health professions. Mentorship is a great way of supporting the development of the professionalism competency and of assessing that inside the portfolio or the relationship between the mentor and the mentee. It's a way of engaging students perhaps in research participation. So mentoring is not just about students who are struggling. It is also about stretching and inspiring students. So there's the potential for perhaps research or extracurricular activities through the mentoring relationship. In mentoring, we can stimulate career aspirations and think about training guidance as well too. So, you know, in our school, we've invited alumni to come and talk to our students about their particular training path and why they chose the specialty that they have chosen. And this can be organised through the college or through the mentoring relationship. We have students who come together for mentoring around the USMLE exam. So students who have prepared for that, senior students, they offer junior students advice about that. And sometimes faculty who've been through that North American training path will also be involved in that. Mentoring is particularly important, and this is a dimension that must be focused on and thought about in the well-being and self-awareness of the student. And I would also say for the mentor as well too, this can be a bilateral way of learning about our selves and our well-being and developing that self-awareness. Mentoring can be an excellent support for students who are underrepresented in medicine. We do have some students who you would think of as neurodiverse. They think slightly different from the majority of the students in the program, and we really want to support them through mentoring relationships, encouraging them to, you know, think about the way that they think about things, because when they graduate, they will be representative of our patient body, which is much more diverse usually than the graduates from the medical course. So very important thing in mentorship is to set ground rules, and you can see the sort of ground rules up there that you would expect in a relationship. Very important one is that creating a safe space, but we always have a discussion at the start of the mentoring relationship about how what is shared by the mentee is confidential. And the same, you know, the mentee should understand that what the mentor shares is also confidential. But we also explain to the student that if there is any concerns about what they disclose, that there may be a danger to themselves or to other students or to the college, then it would be necessary for us to let them know that we have to discuss that further, either with the senior mentor or with the Assistant Dean Student Affairs. And you would definitely be telling the student you'd be talking to them about that's the process. And this is only in that case where you consider that there's some significant risk. What's really important for mentors is to develop a mentoring mindset. So you can see the purple circle in the middle. It's all about the learner. Okay, mentoring is for the learner to listen to their needs and aspirations and to support them in managing their goals. It is a partnership. So think about it as a partnership. Also, you can see on the orange side, a very important part of mentoring is developing reflective listening capabilities. So for the student to develop those and the mentor to guide the student to do that, because we know as practitioners, it's extremely important to be a reflective learner, and this can help us to improve our practice. So starting that in the medical school is particularly important. In the green square, you see curiosity. And again, really important for you to be, as a mentor, present for the student and curious about them, showing genuine interest in their growth and development. And there needs to be courage. You can see the bottom circle. You need to be prepared as a mentor to have those critical conversations. If there is an issue with the student's performance and you need to give them some constructive feedback, that should be timely and it should be transparent and open with the idea that you're going to have a conversation with the students about strategies for improvement. The growth model is something that we use in our school. And of course, this has come from the business world, but it is used in many industries across the world. And the growth model is one of those widely adopted models of mentoring and coaching that offers a learner-centered approach to structuring a conversation on thinking independently about an issue to help the person move from setting a goal to identifying next steps, including a time frame. This model allows the mentor or coach to ask powerful questions to stimulate the mentee's ability to be resourceful and to find solutions and strategies that work for them. So starting with the goal, that's the G, what do you want to do? The reality, where are you now? What are your resources now? What could be possible? Options, what can you do? What can you contribute to reaching your goal? And what will you do? So that next step. So always leaving that mentoring or coaching conversation with what is the next step? And this needs to come from the mentee, from the student. So very importantly for the mentee is helping them to develop or to strengthen their growth mindset. So you probably will have all heard of that students may have, or we may have, a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. So you can see all the statements there in the heads, and I think you will understand that, you know, a fixed mindset, people think, well, this is what I've got. This is, you know, like how I can perform. Okay, I haven't done well in my exam. This is all I can do. The exam was terrible. You know, they didn't give me the right sort of resources. I don't know where I'm going to go from here. This is a person with a fixed mindset. They see feedback as criticism. You know, they are very conscious about their performance, their show, and they're not a reflective learner. The person with a growth mindset sees challenges, speed bumps along the way as exactly that, opportunities for growth. Okay, they understand that they can develop their intelligence. They can absolutely be inspired by other people's success and see themselves as contributing to that as well too. They understand that mistakes can make them grow and they're part of their development. So let's think about what makes an effective mentee, and you can read those things on the screen, but it's just really important for the student, the mentee, to actually be proactive themselves, to initiate the relationship, and also to make sure that whatever goals they set and strategies they discuss with their mentor, that they are actively involved and they are following up on the things that they've agreed to do. Okay, and they're always looking for feedback, asking for feedback, and you know, acting on that feedback constructively. If they do have misunderstandings in the mentoring relationship, they address those quickly and you know, have a discussion about that to move forward. So using a portfolio can be a really important part of the mentoring relationship. And actually, you know, many times it has been written that without a mentor, portfolios really don't work very well. And we use portfolios for assessment in the health professions education to move away from that snapshot of examinations. You know, that's a type of MCQ examination that really only students can, you know, show their knowledge ability, but, you know, not the application necessarily of knowledge. So the portfolio allows much more display of competencies beyond knowledge and knowledge application. So this is the way that the portfolio can work in a mentoring relationship. It can be the bridge between the mentor and the medical student's growth. Okay, so you can see on the screen there, portfolio associated faculty, meaning the mentor can both display coaching behaviours and mentoring behaviours inside that support for the educational portfolio. The capacities or capabilities that are supported there, as we said, very importantly, reflection, self-directed learning, and performance improvement. All very important capacities that we want to stimulate in our medical students, and these can be done by developing a portfolio. So in our college, we use a portfolio and it's supported by a mentor. Our programs are 2+4 undergraduate programs, so 6-year medical program with the first 2 years sciences and the last 4 years preclinical and clinical. We are trying all the time, evolving our program and trying to be problem-based, work integrated and competency-based in our delivery of our program. In the last couple of years, the UAE University, or the College of Medicine and Health Sciences, has led the development with other medical schools of the Emirates Meds framework. So like the Saudi framework, like CanMeds, we are using Emirates Meds to inform our curriculum, and that is really supporting all those good things about problem-based, work integrated and competency-based learning to develop broader competencies in the students, and the portfolio is really helping with that. So in the connection with assessment, we're trying to increase our formative assessment and have increasing numbers of low stakes assessment points, so increasing the assessment points in the program so that we have a much more holistic view of the student by the time that they come to their last year. So things that are included in the portfolio are their curriculum vitae from very early on. So we start encouraging students to learn how to present themselves, because that might be quite challenging as a first-year medical student, but usually as a high school student, these students have come having represented various projects in their school, and they have also the ability to make a statement about why they want to do medicine in their curriculum vitae. And of course, that evolves over the time they're in medical school and they have opportunities for extracurricular activities. They develop with their mentor an action or a learning plan, depending on what their goals are, what their aspirations are, and how they put them into SMART goals. They also can include their preclinical PBL products, so they might do collaborative concept maps, and these can go into the portfolio. And in a hard copy portfolio, just as in an e-portfolio, these are representatives of their individual capabilities as well too. Our students do clinical skills assessments, and they are also included in their portfolio. And whether hard copy or soft copy, they can show the development of clinical skills over the period of the preclinical years and into the clinical years. They have early clinical exposure before the clerkships and are asked to do reflections on those. And again, they go into the portfolio. So they can see the development of their reflection from when they're in the early years through the preclinical years to clinical. And then you can see the workplace assessments that also go into the portfolio. So mentors mentor students over a phase. So for 2 years in the pre-medical phase and 2 years in the preclinical and 2 years in the clerkship. However, if there's a good relationship between the mentor and the mentee can request to continue with the same mentor. So we're very flexible about that. After assigning them in first year, because they don't know faculty, we certainly let the students change and request mentors if that's going to work better for them, because we know that choosing your mentor is the most effective way to have a successful mentoring relationship. So I hope that that's given you an insight into the mentoring relationship and the use of the portfolio, knowing that they are very dependent on each other. Thank you very much for listening. And, if you want to follow up at all, I'm very happy to be in contact with anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suzanne. Please keep with us. We will go
Hello,
through
Mr.
2
Ahmed.
talks and then we will open the discussion. Ahmed, خير الدين الآن.
Good afternoon. And
Salam alaikum.
Okay, the next speaker is Dr. Khiraldeen from Maastricht University. I think all the staff in HUCOM knows Khiraldeen. She worked with us for about 8 years in Mukalla, coming and going, of course, during the project, Dutch project. She is an instructor in Maastricht University, and she helped a lot during the Dutch project. And she's going to talk today about quality is in the eye of the beholder. Start.
Salam alaikum. My name is Geraldine Beaujean. I'm from Maastricht University in the Netherlands. I feel very honored to be invited to your conference today, and I thank my very old friend Dr. Ali Batafi for being in touch, staying in touch all those years. I will hopefully contribute to your conference by giving this short introduction about the quality of medical education, which is, of course, in the eye of the beholder. Quality is determined by the person or the people who look at it. And today you will get my view, and hopefully it will help you in discussing what it means to you, quality of medical education. Because if we discuss quality of medical education, of course we should first agree on what do we mean with quality and what actually is medical education. What is our common standpoint in this? What is our view? Now I know in Yemen you have KAKA, the Accreditation Council, and I went back to their website, which is very informative. There is so much to learn about standards, guidelines based on the World Federation of Medical Education. There are rules, regulations, tips how to improve your quality of education, how to do a self-assessment. There is a lot of information to be found in there. And so I was thinking by myself, this cannot be the reason why you invited me to talk about the quality of medical education. And I decided to take a little bit a different viewpoint. It is in the end in the eye of the beholder. So let us first look at medical education as a curriculum. But what is a curriculum actually? We have many types of the same curriculum running in one point of time. For instance, we have the declared curriculum. That is what you, the educationalist, made, the intended written document of the curriculum. But we also have a taught curriculum, and that is what the teachers, who sometimes only come in for a few sessions, bring to the students. That is not necessarily exactly the same as the written curriculum. We have the learned curriculum, that is what students pick out from what they have been shared, what the teachers shared with them. And that again is not exactly a copy of what the taught curriculum is, nor what the declared curriculum is. Then we have the assessed curriculum, because you cannot assess everything in every little detail. So again, when you look at that part, it is part of the originally declared curriculum, but not completely. And finally, we have the hidden curriculum. And that is the curriculum that students learn informally from each other, or even outside medical school, that is relevant for their lessons in school. So again, what are we looking at when we talk about curriculum? What are we examining if we talk about the quality of medical education? You could also have a viewpoint of a curriculum that says, okay, we have students and we want them to come out of this school with things to have learned, the learning outcomes. And in between, we have ways to guide them, to feed them more or less. We have a document, again, about the content, what should be learned. We have ways to teach them in small groups, in big groups, in problem-based, in project-based, in community-based, a lot of certain based curricula. We have an assessment plan that helps them to learn what is needed to be learned, and that can be done in written, in an oral exam, in an observed clinical exam, and so on. And we have the educational environment. Where do they learn? In the hospital, in the primary care setting, in the school, in the community. And all of those elements, again, we can judge them on their quality. Now, I promised you at the start of my talk that I take it from a little bit a different viewpoint. And what I would like to discuss is none of the things that we talked about till now, but I would like to focus and put the perception of the teacher, the human factor in all this. Because in a medical school, the most important asset is its faculty, the teachers. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about you. As colleagues Jason and Westberg in 1982, mind you, that is already some time back, wrote, and I cannot agree more, is that the one task that is distinctively related to being a faculty member is teaching. All other tasks can be pursued in other settings. And yet, paradoxically, the central responsibility of faculty members is typically the one for which they are least prepared. Meaning that, yes, all of you are very well content experts in your field, but in universities it's not obvious that all of the content experts are also expert in teaching, in the pedagogical aspect of your job. And of course, research and clinical areas are valued very much, and a lot of attention has been paid and is being paid to improve that area. But what do we do about teaching? And what does that mean, excellence in teaching? There's many research done about this topic. And if we put it all together and summarize it, the teacher's perspective, so from the point of view from a teacher, what they say is the most important to become a good teacher is that you are a subject matter expert, that you relate to students well, that you set up transparent learning objectives, and that you have a good communication and dialogue with students, and create an environment in where students can help each other as well. That's from the teacher's perspective. Now, as you can imagine, a lot of research has also been done around the student. What is the student's perspective about a good teacher? What do they say is important in a teacher? And they mention, if you put it all together, 3 areas. One is the characteristics of the teacher. They say he or she must be enthusiastic, you must be able to reach out and connect. He or she has to be fair and respectful to us, the students, has to be able to talk passionately about their topic or subject, and has to be supportive to us, the student. In terms of pedagogical abilities, they mention that a good teacher should be able to organize a course, to present in a nice and good manner, to engage students in their learning process and in their work, and give feedback, be open and transparent about what is done well so far or mastered well, and what needs to be improved. And last but not least, they mentioned that they should be a subject matter expert. As you can see, it doesn't differ so much, the teacher's view from the student's view. It's more the sequence. The teachers mentioned that the subject matter expertise is the one most important topic, while students say, but wait a minute, the characteristics of a teacher, the way they are dealing with us, that is also very important to us. They have to understand what we need to learn. Now, it's really a pity that I cannot be with you today in Yemen, and I really, really hope that in future I can return. But I imagine you are a group of people with a lot of different backgrounds, different specialty, different, maybe different, coming from a different region in Yemen. You are not all the same. And your teachers, your students are also a very diverse group of students. Now, my question to you is, why do you teach? Why did you decide to be a part of the faculty? And in fact, why are you here? Why are you interested in education at all? And I guess I can answer that question for you, because what we know again from research is that most of the clinicians and biomedical scientists, they teach because they are intrinsically motivated. It is like altruism. They have an intellectual satisfaction and they feel personal development if they teach others. It's not that somebody can make you teach, and in fact in your profession as a clinician or as a researcher, most of the time you are rewarded more and better than as an educator, but intrinsically you feel that it makes you a better person and you can help the society in another way by transferring the knowledge you have. Intrinsically means that no school or no organization can really put that up on you. It has to be inbuilt already. So in a way, schools cannot help teachers by making teaching more interesting, more nice to them, so that they are better motivated. It's their own motivation that counts. But what they also need is to feel related to other teachers. We know that it is important that you have a group of teachers that you can share your experience with, who feel the same doubts, who have the same questions, who encounter the same problems like you, and that you share and talk about it. You have to feel connected to a group of people. That is a psychological need that can be fostered by a medical school, that can be supported by a faculty. So how can we make a group of people feeling connected in this educational domain that doesn't get automatically all the attention that it deserves? Or in another way, how can we enhance the quality of medical education from the perspective of the teachers, which we know is not so much different from the perspective of the students? What can a school do to help the teachers improve the quality of their teaching? And the answer to that is that you can help putting the focus on education by making it a professional task of the teacher through communities of practice. And I see that my video is in front of this text, but what is written there is community of practice. That is a group of people who share a common concern, a set of problems or an interest in a topic, and who come together to fulfill both individual and group goals. So give them a safe place and an environment where they can share their experiences and problems, rather than to set rules and guidelines and standards and measure them against those standards. In a way, the solution or the opportunity to improve your education is easier than thought. Because if the faculty creates an environment and platform where it is allowed for teachers to share their doubts and to discuss best practices, to learn from each other, to invite each other in their classes, to reward the best teacher, not as a kind of competition, but more to show to the students and the other colleagues in the faculty that you value education. This will motivate the teachers even more. So the intrinsic motivation that is anyway there is giving attention by the whole organization. So it's not so much courses or trainings or diplomas that will improve the teaching of your teachers, but it is the community of practice in which they share their problems, interests, ideas, experiments with each other in a safe environment. That is what helps enhance medical education, in my view, the most. Anything you pay attention to grows, and this is something very important for any medical school. The human factor, the people who teach. And to conclude, I would like to show you this picture, which is taken already almost 20 years ago. But you see a team at work, and the team had a common goal. And when you really work towards a common goal, you learn how to use the best quality in each other and learn from each other. It was, as you can see, a very safe and respectful environment. That is what it is needed to improve your medical education. And the beauty of it is that students will feel this immediately. They feel this environment, and in a way you will role model what is needed for a professional to bloom, to work in the best way, to increase quality. So it doesn't take a lot of high technical costly investment. It is caring for people, caring for each other, sharing what you know in a safe manner. That, in my view, will enhance medical education the most. Shukran jazilan. Once more, thank you for the invitation to be with you. And I have my email address down in this slide. So please, if there are any questions or any things you would like to share with me, send me an email and we will be connected. Shukran jazilan, and wish you a very nice continuation of this conference.
See you with us. Okay, thank you for Dr. Khiraldin. I think most of you in HUCAM, they know Khiraldin. She was a director of the Dutch project for about 8 years. She was very supportive to HUCAM. Really, we miss it, Khiraldin. She's not online with us, Ahmed? She's not. Okay. Now we'll move to Professor Whistling talk. It will be about medical education from a senior clinician's perspectives. Professor Whistling is a full prof in pulmonology in Maastricht University, who is also...
My name is Geert-Jan
one of the consultants in the Dutch project who worked with us in Hucom. So we'll go for his presentation. Ahmed, start.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Geert-Jan Wesseling, and I'm very honored to be part of this wonderful symposium. Thank you for joining me for this short presentation. The title of my presentation is Medical Education from a Senior Physician's Perspective, because that's what I am, a senior physician. The contents for this talk are a little bit about myself, some reflections on nowadays doctors, who is different from the doctor at the time that I started my career as a medical doctor. When we consider that doctors have changed, this probably means quite a lot for medical education as well. And not only for medical education, we'll also talk a little bit about medical assessment in the context of the changes in medical education. So a little bit about myself. I'm 68 years old. And I graduated as a medical doctor in June 1984 at the Free University of Amsterdam. Subsequently, I was trained as a respiratory physician in Maastricht, where I became a full professor in respiratory medicine in 2010. Later, I became a vice dean of the Faculty of Health Medicine and Life Sciences in Maastricht, and I was the head of the Department of Respiratory Medicine for a significant number of years. Relevant for today's talk is that I've been a master coordinator at the Faculty of Health, Medicine and Life Sciences for many years, both in the regular Dutch curriculum and in the English language international track of medicine that we've had in Maastricht for the last 15 years. Also, I've been a consultant for She Collaborates, the office of Maastricht University that supports curriculum design and capacity building in medical schools throughout the world. And in this context, I've been in Mukalla in Yemen, but also in Oman, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in Ghana, Indonesia, Portugal, and a number of other countries. I started by saying that nowadays doctors are different from the doctors that I met when I was a student in medical school in Amsterdam in the early 1980s. Doctors used to smoke, most of them were male, and they were impressive and to a certain extent a role model. But having said that, doctors have changed significantly over the past decade. And when you start thinking of today's doctor and what today's doctor is like, it would be a nice exercise to consider you are hiring a junior doctor for your postgraduate residency program, and you ask yourself, what exactly would you expect from this junior doctor? What qualifications or skills or competencies or characteristics would you consider important when you hire a new young doctor? When I was a student, probably knowledge would be the most important element or most important characteristic of a doctor. You would want your doctor to know everything. And as I did, probably most of you will have learned physiology from Guyton and anatomy from Sabota and internal medicine from Harrison's, the textbooks that make up a lot of our learning as a medical student. But I think the position of knowledge in medical education, or the position of knowledge in medical practice in general, has changed significantly. For me personally, when I hire a doctor, I would say knowledge is not key, because I would think that knowledge has changed a lot, and knowledge will continue to change. And instead of knowing everything by heart, all the knowledge that we could possibly need to have available when treating a patient can be obtained online. I would think that most students and medical doctors will have a cell phone in their pocket, and most of these cell phones will have access to the internet and will probably have the UpToDate app or another app giving access to medical knowledge within seconds, highlighting that having knowledge in your own head is probably less important than being able to find knowledge as quickly as possible, for instance, through these types of apps. Now, I'm not saying that knowledge is not important at all, it's just that it's not the only thing that is important. And obtaining knowledge in medical education is still one of the key elements in a curriculum. Nowadays, obtaining knowledge is often done in a problem-based manner with self-directed active learning instead of passive learning through lectures, for instance. This knowledge is often presented in an integrated curriculum instead of in isolated courses for instance, anatomy or physiology or biochemistry or whatever. And these basic sciences are usually linked to clinical problems in this problem-based learning curriculum, with all these basic sciences returning throughout the curriculum in a spiraling way in increasing complexity. Throughout the years, I've given many lectures, and I consider myself a decent teacher when it comes to giving lectures, but I've seen students sleeping throughout my lectures in increasing numbers. And I think that lecture halls are nowadays out when it comes to transferring knowledge in medical education. And as I said, knowledge is no longer the only thing we seek in a young doctor, for instance, because other competencies than just knowledge are considered as important or even more important. And there's a number of sets of these competencies available. On this slide, you find depicted the CanMEDS competencies, consisting not only of the medical expert, the knowledge part, but a number of other competencies that are considered equally important. Listed here first the knowledge or the medical expert, but then professional, communicator, collaborator, health advocate, schooler and leader. And for instance, professional is a very important element I would think I would seek in a junior doctor considering coming to our department. And this professional behavior consists not only of punctuality and looking well and clean, but also resilience, because danger is lurking throughout the career in medical practice. Curiosity is extremely important. There's no learning without curiosity. Adaptability is an important characteristic because things will change over time and you will need to adapt to new circumstances. And of course, honesty is an important part of professional behavior as well. So in nowadays medical education, I would consider lecture halls and old-fashioned libraries with hard copies of books out, and increasingly important, so in our informal learning spaces where students can discuss and share, a skills lab and a stable internet connection to allow access to all the knowledge that you could possibly find through the internet. Which brings me to the skills lab. For me, the skills lab is probably the most important learning site in a medical school. And when I talk about a skills lab, I'm not talking about a fancy laboratory with a lot of equipment and mannequins and machines, etc. Any room will do for an undergraduate skills lab. For me, such a skills lab is to play a central role in medical education. Just a room will often do without all the machines and the fancy equipment, etc. And it's important to use the skills lab aligned with the course content. In a skills lab, you can practice history taking, physical examination and clinical reasoning. And yes, you might need some equipment depending on the objectives and the end terms of a specific curriculum. To give you an example, in Germany, where I've worked for a while, medical students are considered to draw blood because that is not something nurses are allowed to do, and it is something doctors do not like to do. So learning how to draw blood is one of the first things German students will learn in a skills lab. In the Netherlands, in Maastricht, for instance, we don't depend on students for drawing blood, so that would be less important in the skills lab. In other hospitals, students will be asked to monitor vital signs, so measuring blood pressure, for instance, would be an important skill learned in such a skills lab. And from the set of competencies that I've just shown you from the CanMat set, most relevant competencies can be trained in a skills lab and should be trained in a skills lab and not preferably in a hospital. Skills lab will allow the obtaining of a bit of knowledge, obviously, but a lot of communication skills, collaboration skills, professionalism and other important skills can be trained in a skills lab in a safe and quiet environment. Having said that, the objectives of such a skills training should obviously be clear from the start. And for me, this use of a skills lab allows for careful preparation, which is a key to successful rotations. I would say don't start rotations before everything that can be trained in a skills lab has been trained in a skills lab. That brings me to undergraduate medical education in the hospital. Yes, you need a skills lab, but also yes, you need a hospital. Having said that, we need to be aware of the fact that hospitals and clinical practice in general are not designed for undergraduate medical education. Most hospitals are understaffed, time is often limited, the setting of the hospital is pretty unpredictable, often very unstructured, and not a very safe environment for an inexperienced undergraduate medical student. One of the ways to allow a little bit of a structuring of such a medical education part in the hospital or a rotation is to use logbook, which is often pretty fragmented and dedicated to one single rotation only, or the portfolio, which allows for a longer monitoring of the growing of the student in skills and knowledge, etc., and which also allows mentoring because you can share the portfolio with a teacher and monitor your progress as a student in this way. Are usually visited in a master phase. Which brings me to one of the important parts of medical education in the hospital, which is bedside teaching, with often large groups of students following one doctor throughout the ward. Now, pretty often this turns out to be bedside or bedside lecturing instead of bedside teaching. And that may have been the case in the early 60s or 70s of the 20th century, but it's often still the case in the 2020s. This is a recent picture from a bedside teaching and a grand round in Ghana, where I've worked for several times, where the guys in the back will not see anything, they will not hear anything, they will not learn anything, and they will end up exhausted anyway without having benefited from this learning experience. And it's usually not only the students who will end exhausted after such a grand round. The patient is often left desperate, anxious, frightened to death, or whatever after the doctors have left. And most often these grand rounds and this bedside teaching does not really involve the patient, who's not even allowed to give an opinion. So an advice could be to make small rounds instead of these sort of old-fashioned grand rounds that I've just shown you. One way to do this could be to take two students for every 2 patients. Let these students subsequently prepare and share the case that they've seen with their peers. You could ask the student to speak with the patient the next time you visit the ward, which could probably be the next day. And another important element is to define detailed learning goals from having seen the patient. You could involve senior students and or residents in monitoring the learning process of the students. And you could link that with performance and competencies assessment. For instance, in the logbook or by having written cases after the patient has been discharged. Which brings me to assessment in medical education. I think that exams in a curriculum should cover all the essential elements, the end terms and the objectives of the curriculum. So not only the knowledge exams, but also assessments linked to the other competencies that we consider important. Because if knowledge is no longer the key, the most essential element in medical education, the old-fashioned MCQ exams that we used to have are no longer as important or as good as they used to be. And having said that, let's be honest, composing a good MCQ exam is extremely difficult and extremely expensive. And from my experience, sitting for an MCQ exam for students works best if they don't think too long about the answer. If you need more than 5 seconds to think about the best possible answer, you'll probably give the wrong answer, which says something about the quality of the questions in my opinion. And one way of making sure that all the essential elements in the curriculum are indeed assessed is by using the theories of programmatic assessment, where the different components of the curriculum are assessed in a way that fits best with that specific competency or element of the curriculum. And having said that, programmatic assessment is becoming increasingly important in many medical schools. It requires a full lecture in itself, and I advise people who are involved in designing assessment in medical education to take a look at the principles and the theory and the literature about programmatic assessment, because that may help in defining the best exam methods in a medical curriculum. So to summarize this short presentation briefly, I would think that the transfer of knowledge in the case, which is the case in the passive learning, for instance in lecture halls, is becoming more and more irrelevant. It is important for the students to create a safe environment that allows active learning, because we know that knowledge and skills that have been obtained in an active manner will stick with the student for a longer period of time, and will also encourage students' skills of continuous learning throughout the career. So lecture halls are not very good at supporting curiosity, and one of the things to make students more active is to make them more an owner of their own learning process, instead of having the staff doing that. Stimulate active learning, optimize the use of Skills Lab, and I've talked a little bit about that. Assessment needs to cover all the elements and the end terms. One of the ways to make sure that skills, for instance, are trained in the best possible way is to observe students and give detailed feedback on their performance, and make sure that in a curriculum all the relevant end terms are indeed involved and included in the assessment. And with that, I thank you for your attention. And if there's any questions, my email is on the final slide. Thanks for joining me today, and I wish you all the best.
Okay, thanks for Professor Wisling for this informative, concise lecture. Ahmed, is Geraldine with us online? Is Dr. Geraldine with us? Okay. Geraldine, how are you?
How are you?
Do you hear me, Geraldine?
Very well. Can you hear me?
من معاه ويسلينج أنا ما أشوف. Who's with you? Wisling or?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know him. How are you, Wisling? Really, first of all, I want to apologize for you. I sent for you a link which was for the previous sessions. For this reason, you missed your presentation. But I think you attended the presentation of Wisling.
Yes, but I knew my own presentation and I didn't know his, so it was a perfect match.
That's good. That's good. Anyhow, to get benefit of time, we open discussion for your lectures and Professor Wisling. So anyone who has a question about the lecture of Dr. Geraldine and Professor Wisling, they can ask. We open discussion. Any questions?
Yes. How are you, Geraldine and Professor Whistling? This is Dr. Ahmed Badib. I have a question regarding the hot topic again about PBL. We started together the PBL and we were, also went to the clinical presentation curriculum and all these things. The hot question now, do you think that PBL is still alive? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, and it's great to see you again. And yes, I think definitely PBL is still alive as long as there are teachers who are working with PBL. Students will follow them. And for teachers, it's maybe more difficult to use the method than for students to attend it. They will enjoy the real life problems you share with them and ask them to solve. It will make the theoretical curriculum much more attractive to them. But for teachers, you have to give your students more control and they will lead the process. And that is always a bit scary because as a teacher, you think you know it all and the students know nothing. So I think, yes, it is still very much alive and applicable as long as the teachers can follow the rules of the game.
Thank you.
And to
I have a
add to
question for
that,
you, Professor Whistling.
yeah, and to add to that, we have 8 universities with medical schools in the Netherlands, and all 8 have now adopted at least some or the most essential elements of problem-based learning in their curriculum. That's one thing. And the other thing is there's enough literature to show that curiosity is best raised and supported by providing the students with questions instead of giving answers. So yes, problem-based learning is becoming increasingly popular in many medical schools nowadays.
So I have a question actually to the two professors,
My
if you don't
question
mind.
to Professor Whistling. Actually, early morning, we have a lecture about programmatic assessment by Professor Kassab from Emirates. And he said that the committee for the program, they include staff, but the mentor is not included in the committee. We were to ask him, but unfortunately we missed him from the link. So now, since you talk about programmatic assessment and you encourage us to apply programmatic assessment, do you have any idea that why the mentor is not included in the committee which will evaluate the student?
Well, that is, I think, a choice. Mentoring works best if you work with a longitudinal integrated portfolio that the students keep, where they collect all the information on whatever they've done, whatever they've learned, what they thought about the learning, and share that with a mentor. So a mentor is only effective if there's materials to work with, which is often a portfolio. This is a pretty expensive and a pretty time-consuming exercise, and not all medical schools have the staff or the money or the experience to use portfolios and mentoring. But if you do that, I think it's a very strong support for the learning of the students.
And to add that, the reason why you could decide to give the mentor no voice in the assessment is because you want to establish and keep a good relationship between the mentor and the mentee. The moment the mentee feels that he's judged by his or her own mentor, the relationship will be under pressure. It can be less trustful. So in the ideal situation, you separate the judge power, the judgmental assessment power from the coaching and mentoring role.
May I ask a question to the professor?
Professor Abdurrahman, yeah, go ahead, Professor.
Yeah, it is.
Abdurrahman Jazia from Sinisati in the United States. He's figure in oncology, and also he's the editor-in-chief for the Journal of Quality in Healthcare in the United States. Professor Abdurrahman, you are welcome.
Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead.
you very much. It's an honor to be part of this conference. Thank you. And I enjoyed the presentation of the two professors. I like the idea, and I have been always advocate of that. You know, it's not important what you know. It's the most important how to get the right information in the right time. I wonder how the professors will comment about the artificial intelligence now available to the students and how we are going to integrate that in the education, because this is a powerful force that's changing everything we are doing in life, especially as healthcare providers and educators too.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. But I think at this moment, we're still struggling with artificial intelligence and how to use that. And one of the challenges right now is to keep nonsense from real valuable knowledge. And I think one of the skills the students need to have when they will use artificial intelligence in the future is to separate the nonsense from what they really need and what is really true. And that's probably the challenge at this time. And that's also where a good curriculum and good staff teachers will have to guide the students to make sure that they don't learn the silly things.
I want to tell you, Professor Whistling, good news. Actually, in the school, medical school, which I have shifted to it 3 years back, we introduced AI as a part of our curriculum for the medical student, and it is compulsory, not elective. We started it last year, 23-24.
I think it's a very good idea. The students need to learn about AI, need to learn how to work with AI, because it will be there in the future. It will be there to stay.
Any question? So, you have a question, Sam? Yes? لخير الدين ولا ويسلك؟ ها؟
Dr. Kiradi. My question about the difference between the manner of education in a college classic manner and the other college BBL. Is there difference in the outcome? And if the doctor graduated from this and this education, is it different for this patient, for this doctor, or any doctor become good, whatever the manner of education of the school, and will work hard for himself to become good doctor? So thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, which has been researched a lot, because schools using problem-based learning need to prove that they do at least as good as classical schools or even better. And the result of all that research is that they, in knowledge terms, they are equal as classical schools, but in terms of other competencies, they are better equipped. And for instance, the connection to artificial intelligence, like was raised in the previous question, you can also use it in problem-based learning, that if you ask students to solve a problem and they come back after reading a lot of material with the possible solution, they will of course have included information that they found using AI. By debating and discussing this all together, they will find out what is trustable information and what is not trustable. So it helps much more than if you have a lecturer in front of a big classroom in the traditional teaching, who decides what information he or she will take, maybe from with the help of AI or not, but bring it as this is the source of information. So in a problem-based learning curriculum, what you learn additionally to the knowledge is, for instance, the competence of judging knowledge to its value. And there are other ways, other competencies that you are stimulating. For instance, leadership within the group. Because in problem-based learning, a small group is led by a student, not by a teacher. And they need to do that, learn how to do that, how to control a group, which they also need to learn for their future profession. So there are more competencies in problem-based learning that you work on as compared to only knowledge when you sit in a classroom, bigger classroom setting. I hope that that is a part of your, that is an answer to your question.
Anyhow, at the end of the day, we would like to thank Professor Whistling and Dr. Khairuddin for their contribution in this conference. And inshallah, next conference, they will present in person. Really, Khairuddin, we missed you. But we hope that one day you will come again to Mukalla and you will repeat the memories of the previous years when you were working with us in the Dutch project of NOFIC. Thank you.
Inshallah, inshallah. Shukran jazilan.
Inshallah.
Now back to Professor Abdurrahman Jazia to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Ruiz.
Yeah, it's my pleasure actually to be with you, and I would like to thank the organizing committee for putting such a great conference. So our next speaker is Dr. Ruiz Mohsen bin Laksar. He is an assistant professor in medicine and health science at Sion University, and he is now the vice dean of academic development and quality assurance in the university. Dr. Ruiz will be talking about medical student satisfaction and perception of a flipped classroom teaching, state of the art in medical education. Dr. Ruiz?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Doctor, for a nice introduction. My talk will be about the flipped classroom, student perception and satisfaction in Shabwa University College of Medicine and Health Sciences. I teach there the communication skills and research methodology. What dictate this method of strategy of teaching these subjects, because I am in Sion and I have to come every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I adopted this technique to solve the problem of the travel, and also it is a state of the art in medical education. Next. What's flipped classroom? It is a model of pedagogical approach that recently gained significant traction in medical education. It is a form of blended learning. Blended learning is a combination of face-to-face in-class teaching and online teaching. Innovative technique involve inverting the traditional lecture-based instruction. What is the flipping? Next. Flipping the class centers on delivering print or audio or video-based material, lectures, and wait, back, yes. Before the class, we give them to the student before the class, and the class session then dictated for more active learning process. Next. Class time is used for harder work of assimilating the knowledge through problem-solving discussion or debate or presence with the presence of instructor or the facilitator. Next. This is Bloom taxonomy for the young doctors who don't familiar with it. It is the cognitive part of knowledge acquisition, the lower level understanding and remembering, the upper levels higher Bloom. Next. This is called lower order of thinking skills, and the upper levels are higher level of thinking. And next, in the flipped classroom, in the traditional, the remembering and understanding given in the class, then the student go home and think in the upper level of Bloom, while in the flipped classroom, this easy stuff, remembering and understanding, is given outside the class, before the class, and the difficult or harder stuff given in the class and discussion is more thinking, critical thinking and reasoning. Next, this is the flipped Bloom. Before the class, remembering, understanding. During the class is applying and analyzing, and later on maybe evaluating and creating also after the class, after the whole process. Next, this is the lower Bloom, and this is the higher Bloom, and the more time given to the analyzing and applying. This is become the diamond shape regarding the time given to the process for analyzing and applying in the class, and the understanding, remembering outside of the class. Next, which medical schools use this technique? We have in the United States, Harvard, Stanford, Michigan, California, Virginia, Chicago, and North Carolina. Next, in Europe, Imperial College of London, University of Edinburgh. Next, Australia, Monash University, and Queensland University. Next, Canada, Toronto, and McGill University. Next, what's the benefit of flipped classroom? Next, personalized learning. The flipped classroom model is more personalized learning experience, shifting the passive informative delivery of outside the classroom, and the instructor can use the classroom to address individual students. It shifted from sage on the stage into guide at the side. And he can wander in the classroom and address different students. If every student study the material will have different query, and he can address every one of the students. Next, another benefit is active engagement. It becomes active learning. The student take the material at home, he has studied it and found different queries. He look through the internet and understand another terminologies, and go back to the class with a lot of questions. This will help deepen their understanding and increase the critical thinking and problem solving. Next, also improve knowledge retention. They found the flipped classroom help in retention of the information because of active learning. Next, what's the challenge in flipped classroom? Flipped classroom can be successful only if the student have self-directed learning skills, which is maybe not always the case. There may be spontaneous questions from the student after they read the material. So the teacher should become prepared, well prepared. If they study the material before, they come with a lot of questions. If he is not prepared, he will be in a bad situation. Next, also constraint of time. If you give the student a lot of material to study, they cannot finish it with have other duties, and so. A student also may be tuned to traditional class or traditional lecture based, so they may dislike this type of teaching. A good teacher will be able to steer the student in the right direction. Next, the aim of this study is to assess the satisfaction and perception of second and third year medical student about flipped classroom in the College of Medicine and Health Sciences, Shabwa University. Next, a method, a cross-sectional study. We have used pre-validated questionnaire based on 5-point Likert scale used through Google Forms. Participant or student from second year communication skills, third year research methodology and evidence-based medicine. Next, after setting the objective of the course, the flipped classroom strategy was used, giving the PowerPoint lectures, which is the lectures is self-explanatory, not only just points, the concise but self-explanatory given to the student with some videos, and given 2 to 3 weeks before the classroom. They also asked to prepare for quiz for the lecture, so they have to read it. Next, class PowerPoint lecture in the class is presented again, and the method is to discuss the points in the lecture, not just repeating it, but to discuss with this student the topics. And at the end of the class, we give 5 to 6 questions quiz, and the student satisfaction was evaluated at the end of the term after the examination. After the examination, because they are free, they have their marks, they can give their opinion freely. We get 75 response rate. Next, 79 students, 21 female, 58 males. We give the Likert scale 5 to strongly agree, 1 to strongly disagree. So the main overall scale was 3.6, standard deviation 1.15. Next, this is first workshop. Pre-reading material were available. We have the green. The green, I mean the red and the blue is the strongly agree and agree. Red and blue. Follow it in the next diagrams. Next, adequate time is provided spending reading material. Also, we have مش شغالة. Next, I participated and engaged in discussion. Also, we have the red and blue. Agree and strongly agree. Next, I understood the topic very well due to flipped classroom. About half of the students agree and strongly agree. Next, teaching flipped classroom increased my interest. Also, about half of the students agree and strongly agree. Next, yes, due to flipped classroom method of teaching, I was usually well prepared for the class. Also, about half of the students agree and strongly agree. Next, the post test made sense to me. I understand its purpose, because some students say, why I have to answer a quiz for a lecture which I don't take. So they understand the purpose of the pre-test. I felt encouraged to participate to pre-class assignment. Also, more than 3/4 agree and strongly agree. Next, the material given to me for flipped classroom method was useful. Also, more than half. Next, the teacher treated us with respect. I am proud of this response. لا اخذوا علاماتهم خلاص، يعني قد ما عاد فيها خوف على next Teacher effectively directed and stimulated the discussion. Also, good response. Next. The teacher effectively encouraged us to ask questions and give answers. Also, the majority respond strongly. Okay, next. The flipped classroom method encouraged my active participation. Half of the students also strongly agree. Next. The flipped classroom encouraged communication between us and the teacher. Next. In conclusion, our students are fairly satisfied with flipped classroom. Most students showed positive attitude toward flipped classroom strategy. Next. Next. There is studies about the effectiveness of flipped classroom. This is a systematic review for flipped classroom in undergraduate. Next. This is another study for graduate medical education. Next. This is about the same study about the medical, flipped classroom in evidence-based medicine. Next. Recommendation, flipped classroom must be adopted more and more courses in different medical schools. Comparative study of academic performance between flipped classroom and traditional lecture-based teaching methods need to be conducted. Next. Thank you.
شكرا دكتور دويس. محاضرتك كانت كونسايز بريسايز وانفورماتيف، وفي الحقيقة يعني الشكر للدكتور رويس انه ادخل انوفيتيف تكنيك، ويمكن هذه المرة الأولى اللي تدخل. as far as I know ما اطلعت انا على كلاس في اي كلية طب، يعني لا في عدن ولا حضرموت ولا محافظات شمالية. هذا يحسب للدكتور رويس جود. ومطلوب من الناس هكذا أن يبدعوا وأن يدخلوا أشياء حديثة في كلياتهم. المتحدث.
Next presentation, Professor Abdul Hakim Tamimi, Senior Consultant of General and Laparoscopic Surgery and Head of Yemeni Society of Surgery and Dean of Faculty of Medicine at the University. About the title, Effective Surgical Training will reduce malpractice or malpractice in surgery. Hello, Dr. Abdul.
Okay, السلام عليكم. أعتقد خلاص. Good evening or good night. Okay. شكرا جامعة العرب، شكرا كلية الطب، شكرا دكتور علي، دكتور أحمد. really المواضيع اللي كانت كبيرة جدا ووصلتنا إلى طبيب إن شاء الله يكون طبيب ناجح ويكون سيف. نحن الآن في المرحلة الثانية ما بعد التخرج، اللي هي الطالب يدخل في certain specialties. As you know that we are going to speak about surgical training بكل شفافية وبكل مشاكلها وما تحويه الكلمة من معنى. لدينا في اليمن عدد كبير من التخصصات أو من البرامج اللي هي تؤدي إلى تخريج طبيب جراحة ذات كفاءة، نقول إن شاء الله تكون عالية وأمينة وحافظة لصحة المريض. بليز نيكست. ما في شيء أخي. يس. طبعا ما بين، لا ريع للصورة، ما بين السماعة والمحكمة في بارير لابد أن يكون. وأنا أعتقد أنه وجود المجلس الطبي الآن يشكل قاعدة أساسية لحماية المريض وأيضا لمساعدة الطبيب. نيكست. طبعا المال براكتس أو سوء الممارسة الطبية بشكل عام طبعا بقت إبيديميك وفي العالم كله وبالذات إيفن في البلدان المتطورة. بيونايتد ستيت بيتكلموا على أنها أصبحت the third leading cause of death في أمريكا بعد القلب وبعد الكانسر، وده شيء مش بسيط جدا و very costly. ولعل أحدا منا يوم من الأيام كان ضحية لمال براكتس أو واحد من أحبابه أو من أهله. طبعا الموضوع هذا ليس easy. Next please. طبعا this definition of malpractice is a professional misconduct or demonstration of an unmeasurable lack of skills that result in injury, loss or damage to the patient. طبعا damage sometimes is not easy. sometimes المريض يفقد جزء منه أو إنه ممكن يموت فيها. Yes. Next. طبعا malpractice in medicine and surgery, and I will concentrate about the surgical training. Surgical training, if there is any deficiency in the training itself, the result will be malpractice, whatever is it. Yes. General surgeons are an essential part of the healthcare. وهم الجراحين طبعا يكونوا أحيانا يرغموا على أنه يعمل جراحة. طالما الأمر للمريض يصل إلى حد الجراحة معناته أنه هو داخل في موضوع حساس جدا قد ينتهي بمشاكل لا تنتهي. الشيء الثاني نتيجة للمال براكتس كثير طبعا من المحاكم والدعاوي القضائية بيواجهها الجراحين، وربما أيضا يدفعوا كثير من أموالهم للإنشورنس، وهذا وارد في كثير من الدول إن لم يكن عندنا يمكن ينتهي بالعرف وما غيره. Next please. What is the malpractice in surgery? Is a typical the type of medical malpractice. Surgical malpractice refers to improper, negligent, or even illegal activity. This is depend upon the moral activity, the moral changes in the surgeon himself, the type of practice itself. Sometimes force the doctor to do something not legal. Yes, and affecting his profession. What is the commonest surgical error? Unnecessary or inappropriate surgery. وهذه مهمة في الجراح إنه متى ما يعمل عملية. يعني easy you can do operation، لكن متى تقرر إن هذا المريض ما يحتاج عملية وفعلا يكون مرضه لا يحتاج عملية. هذه طبعا حاجة أساسية جدا، ولأنه unnecessary surgery فيها many complication، أقلها أنه يكون عنده wound infection، وبالتالي هذه طبعا تعتبر من المشاكل. الشيء الثاني diagnostic error. diagnostic error either from misdiagnosis وأيضا delay in diagnosis. delay in diagnosis is a big problem، وmisdiagnosis تأتي غالبا من improper training or after training الناس ما تحاول انها تستشير بعضها البعض، وهذه واحده من المشاكل اللي نواجهها انه there is no consultation. Yes, next please. General surgeon, some of highest medical liability claim frequencies among physicians طبعا tend to be abnormal injury, failure في diagnosis وfailure any failure في diagnosis. معروف انه there is failure in the treatment. Yes. طبعا من ميدسكيب بيتكلم المساءلة اللي تحصل للجراحين، هذه دراسة في الميدسكيب، غالبا في البوست اوبراتيف انفكشن، بوست اوبراتيف بين، بليدنج، امبوليزم، انجري during surgery، wrongful death، action of professional staff. حتى احيانا الاستاف بينهم البين، الاستاف يشوف مشكلة عملها الجراح او ربما هي announce about it، والله الدكتور غلط عمل حاجة الفلاني. هذه كلها ممكن تطلع من ضمن التيم الموجود، وسمتايمز انه نحن we are not going to follow our patient. follow up of the patient is a big respect for the patient، وهذه احدى الاخطاءات اللي ممكن تحصل. Next. How surgeon can reduce the risk. طبعا انك تستدعى للقضاء والمساءلة is big damaging experience. It's not easy، وربما هذه لا ينساها ولو دفع كل ما عنده، لا ينساها اطلاقا، وربما هي ما تنتهيش، تبقى قضية ومحكمة وطالع ونازل، وهذه واردة في البراكتس. يس بليز. طبعا بسايد انك انت تستدعى او تدخل في محكمة، غالبا الشخص هذا بيخاف على سمعته طبعا، وهذه واحدة من المشاكل اللي تحصل، وفي نفس الوقت ربما يغادر مهنته. ربما يغادر مهنته. في ناس كثيرين انه من مشاكل معينه ومتكرره ممكن he will leave his لكن هناك خطوات اساسيه تنقص كل المشاكل هذه. اذا if we are going to take it in consideration it will be safe for us. Yes please. Yes. واحدة من الدوكيومنتيشن. من يكتب دوكيومنتيشن؟ غالبا documentation is very simple. There is no detail of the communication في الدوكيومنتيشن especially the risky cases. نحن دائما في الطب ممارسة الجراحة نعمل الكونسنت فورم فيها كلام طويل يفزع المريض. ممكن المريض يغادر قاعة العمليات من ما يكتب فيه، ولكن we are not going to document. بيدخلوا المريض يكتب كل شيء وكأن احنا نخلي مسؤوليتنا. You have to document everything right. يعني الستبس تكتب بشكل صحيح. Then the communication is very important. What communication؟ يعني الكوميونيكيشن لازم تكون to sit down with the patient and to speak. مو فقط عند المريض عند الباب، المريض داخل عمليات والمرافقين عند الباب والكلام يتم في ذلك الساعة. لا يمكن يكون الكوميونيكيشن. حتى صوت الطبيب وكلامه ووضوح نبراته هي مهمة جدا انك تعمل ديسكلوجر. في ناس لما يتكلم عندما يواجه مشكلة بيبقى يتلعثم، صوته واطي. لا you have to speak لانك انت تتكلم من منطق معرفي. المنطق المعرفي يجب ان يكون اكسبلورد للناس بشكل عام. ريفير والفولو اب هذه مهمة جدا. انا ام نيو اكيوت كونسلتنت فور اكزامبل وعندي مشكله حاله، اذا ما استطيع ان افعلها ممكن استعين بالصديق، ممكن اعمل لها ريفير and I have to follow my case after I did my serial and دائما to keep in contact. وهذه عليها علامه استفهام لصعوبتها احيانا، واحيانا المريض يمكن يعني بعض الاطباء يتضايقون من المريض ومساءلته واسئلته اللي تتكرر، واحيانا تكون يس بليز. طبعا دي برسنتيج تتكلم، دي دراسه تتكلم على ايش اللي مشاكل السيرجري. 39% منها السيريان هاد لاك اوف تكنيكال سكيلز، ودي ما فيش ابجريدنج للاكسبيرينس. الشيء الثاني 20 او 27% relate to the failure of clinical judgment and communication. Diagnosis should be sound. في حياة تبع الفورم بودي، اكيد كلكم سمعتوا عن فورم بودي وما اكثر الفورم بودي اللي يكون بيحصل، طبعا بيحصل في احسن الناس. ايضا performing unnecessary surgery. والشيء الثاني wrong side wrong organ، هذه بتحصل عملية في اليمين عملية في الرجل اليسار، و3% منهم delayed in surgery. So if there is surgery should not be delayed. Delayed معناته انه في complication. Next please. Are you the victim of surgical error؟ ما حد يرضى انه يكون يعني victim of surgical error. اذا وجه السؤال هذا للجراح واستطاع ان يجاوب عليه اعتقد انه بيكون النهايه كير يس. هذه كندلو، هذا داتا بيز موجوده في اوروبا اونلاين، وبيرسلوا كل من عنده مشكله بيرسلها لهذا الداتا بيز. شوفوا الاورثوبيديك والجنرال سيرجري تقريبا اكثر ناس عندهم مشاكل وتسير في هذا البرنامج. Yes, next. These are usually possible technical problem, poor technique, misidentification, retaining for body. Next, please. This is the technical skill factor. Next. This is the regarding judgment factors, selection, management of the therapy, failure to appreciate or recognize the sign and symptom, failure to delay or ordering diagnostic tests. These also are the main factors can lead to malpractice. Yes. What specialty at high risk؟ إذا قلنا نحن السيرجري yes. تصدقوا إنه البلاستيك سيرجري أكثر ناس، رغم الناس المرضى زمان كان بقت بلاستيك اند استيتيك سيرجري. الناس بتدور يعني الجمال الافضل، وبالتالي دول الناس اكثر عرضه واقلهم طبعا والاورثوبيديك واليورولوجيست دول بهاي برسنتيج. نكست. بينما البيدياتريك واصحاب لا اللي بعدها اللي قبل، يس اللي قبل الفاميلي، طبعا فاميلي ميديسن ما عندهم مشاكل كثيره، ولا سايكاتري ولا بيدياتريك، والنتائج بالنسبه لهم قليله جدا. نكست. دي الصوره اعتقد فاميليار، صوره لو سمحت. صبرنا. هذا الفورم بودي معظم الناس طبعا، وطبعا اكثر شهره ينتقل انه في فورم بودي في واحد. اذا في مدينه كبيره بتدري كل الناس انه في فورم بودي دخل في مريض نسو، فدي واحده من الصور اللي ممكن تتشخص بسهوله وتكير يعني. يس. نكست. ايوه. وات افكتيف سيريكال تريننج. رقم واحد هاند اون تريننج، وهذه اهم واحده، انك انت تسيب الغنم يرعين نفسهم كذا صح. ما يجوز ذا الكلام. يعني اذا في واحد حريص انه تو ترين سم دكتورز تو بي سيرجن وسيف سيرجن، لازم يكون في هاند اون. والله احنا نتذكر ناس الله يرحم بعضهم وربنا يطول الاعمار اخي، they teach hand to hand on، ما فيش كلام. حتى النايف هذا يطرح يده فوق يدك ويقطع معك، يحسسك بالاحساس. لكن الان معظم الناس يمكن يعملوا الادفايس باي تليفون، هذا اذا رد على التليفون ما لم يعطي الاشاره من قبل. اذا واحده منهم كلوز، اتليست كلوز اوبزرفيشن. يعني انا لما اعمل سيرجري او اندر اوبزرفيشن I have to be closed observed by المشرف او السكيلز. نحن لازم نعلم السكيلز، ما نعلمش كلام. اما الكلام بيقرا اي واحد، الكتاب بلا الاف وغيره ده اي واحد بيقرا، علمه يقرا يلغى بيقرا. لكن السكيلز دي ما تاتي الا من ظهر جراح حتى توصل لمن يستحقها. طبعا لابد يكون نولجبل، وليس اي نولج وانما ابديتد نولج يعني على حياه بسيطه. فريكوينت تيست لايسنس، لازم يكون عنده لايسنس، وهذه كلنا اعتقد اللي درسوا برا كانوا اول ما يصل لاي دوله لازم مزاوله مهنه، لازم تكون معك مزاوله مهنه. وانت في التريننج برا اكزت اكزام، مشاكلنا احنا كلنا نعمل اكزام اكزت خلاص تخرج شهاده تخرج. لكن وات از نكست في الديفلوبمنت، في التطوير، مدري ايش، هذه تحتاج مهارات كثيره. فيرتيكال تريننج از اولسو امبورتنت، انه الكبار بيعلموا الصغار اللي بعدهم. قريب يا دكتور هي مخلصين. ريسبكت فيري امبورتنت. كلير انكري بروجرام، كلير انف بروجرام، سينيورتي، روتيشن، فاينانشال سبورت، تيك اوفر يور ريسبونسبيلتي، ابديتد اند ايثكس. في هذه اشياء اذا اجتمعت كلها وكل بدرجاتها وتوصيفها هتعمل انتجرال سيرجن. يس. اللي بعد اللي بعده طبعا مالك انا مش شفنا اونلاين. رجع ارجع. اللي بعده. يس. في حاجه refresher courses also for the surgeon, advanced training program in ethics and laws. ولازم نعرف قوانين البلد اللي تشتغل فيها، في قوانين تختلف من مكان. هذا شابتر موجود في اكسفورد اوف سيرجري. يس. اللي بعده. يس. serious problem encountering، هذه اللي ذكرناها اول. هذا ايضا ارتكل موجود يتكلم على serious problem of the medical system due to malpractice. Yes please. These are Arab countries. انا ما شفت في اليمن، ما ادري ايش الدكتور علي عندك حي موضوع في المال براكتس في السيرجري. هذا واحد من عمان وواحد من سعودي ارابيا، بعضها اعتقد رسالة 21. يس. نكست. بور كوميونيكيشن. الميديكال براكتس طبعا هذه في البور كوميونيكيشن، وهذه الارتكل ممكن تحصلوا عليه، كان بي داونلود ايزي. يتكلم عن tone of voice in surgeon. Yes. Conclusion: follow the local and international guidelines that help you in the daily work is important. Work under supervision. لا تعمل حتى وإن كنت ممتاز. try to bring your supervision with you. Ask him, call him. هذه بتساعدك كثير انك ترسل المسج لمن بعدك ومن قبلك. Hand on training, and don't forget to do a consent form للمريض، وليس تعمل consent form عشان تخلي مسؤوليتك. اللي بعدها هذا التريننج احيانا يكون بالطريقه اللي شفتوا التريننج، احيانا يكون احنا نعمل this over crowding وما يستفيد احد. كذاب انهم يستفيدوا هذا العشرات من الناس، ولا يمكن ان يكون هذا ايضا بينهم مريض مفتوح والسكين فوقه والموجودين فوق. طبعا دي حياة افتكر تحصل احيانا نتيجه للاك اوف فاسيلتيز والمستشفيات. نكست اللي بعده دكتور ايرر. ان شاء الله نتجنب دكتور ايرر. والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Hakim Al-Tamimi, for this kind and comprehensive talk. من القلب إلى القلب زي ما يقولوا. And now we reach to the last talk, the last and not the least. We have now Dr. Abdullah Abu Bakr Ba'athman from Jeddah. Dr. Abdullah is always with us. He's a consultant pediatric heme oncology, and he's also assistant professor of pediatric heme oncology at King Saud University in Jeddah. Welcome, Dr. Abdullah, for your talk about the study habits of health among the students and of health science at King Saud University in Jeddah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. بداية أشكر منظمي تطوير التعليم الطبي أو مؤتمر تطوير التعليم الطبي نحن
العفو، نعتذر على هذا الخلل. دقائق إن شاء الله وراح نرجع معكم.
ايش المشكلة يا احمد؟
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. بداية أشكر منظمي تطوير التعليم الطبي أو مؤتمر تطوير التعليم الطبي نحو رعاية الصحية الآمنة على إعطاء هذه الفرصة لإلقاء واحد من المواضيع المهمة فيما يتعلق بطلبة الطب أو طلبة العلوم الطبية. So if you let me go, my talk will be about our study habits of health science students at the King Saud ibn Abdul Aziz University for Health Science. I will go through a study habits overview and then some key definitions and theoretical framework like study habits and styles, importance of learning approaches, study objectives. Then I will go through methodology. How did we do our survey? And then what were the key findings like study habits, components, the correlation between the study habits and GPA, grade point average, about the time management and metacognitions. And then if there is a time, I will talk about prime or the study, students' preferences and exam habits, which includes prime study time, pretext anxiety, motivation, performance, discussions, and conclusions with recommendations. So, is there any correlations between study habits and effective academic performances through effective learning strategies? Variations in student performance. Significant differences exist in students' outcome due to ineffective study habits, especially among professional students more than others. The impact of learning approaches, adult learning principles positively influence academic success. There is a need for curriculum reforms that incorporate better learning strategies and focus on student learning perspectives, like some other international university that I will mention later. Improving awareness. This will be improved by improving awareness of study habits, especially can enhance teaching strategies and learning outcomes. PBL, problem-based learning versus conventional curriculum. Preferences. Most students, especially medical students, prefer problem-based learning over conventional lectures because this PBL environment is encouraging and encourage discussions and peer evaluations. Only 5% regularly use the internet for studies. First, medical students at PBL accurately judge a peer's performance better than their own. Is there any predictive value for study habits? Study habits are crucial for academic success, emphasizing metacognition and self-regulations. And then, if there is a chance, I will give you the definitions of metacognitions. Study habits in medical students. Medical students excel in study habits, comprehensions, and note-taking compared to the other disciplines. Common issues include concentrations, time management, and reading speed. Survey findings. Majority of students at King Khalid University have disorganized study habits that were improved by implementing courses of reading skills, time management, and other tools of enhancing study habits like information discriminations and metacognitions. what are the definitions between study habits and study styles? Study habits basically is an actions, is reproducible actions that develop knowledge, skills, and attitudes. While Slater in 2007 defined the styles are conditions where learners effectively process informations. It is an early development, and you can enhance this study habits and attitudes during early years of life, and this will continue into higher educations. Early learning methods influence future academic behavior. It is a dynamic process, and it can be improved and improved with teacher guidance and support. Ineffective study habits are a major cause of poor academic performance, which was published by Hendrickson and Cliffner in 2002. The common issue that include lack of motivations, poor time management, and disorganizations. So our study habits objectives were, can we determine the preferences and habits of health science students regarding study practices and attitudes? Can we evaluate the effect of these studies habits on academic performance, particularly GPA? What we did like a questionnaire survey. It was conducted in 2014 and 2015 in King Saud ibn Abdulaziz University for Health Science. The participants were 121 undergraduate male students from medical and health science. The data collection were carried out by modified Arnold et al. Questionnaire with 67 items on 5-point Likert scale, 5 totally disagree, 4 disagree, 3 neutrals, 2 agree, and 1 agree completely. What were the 7 domains? The 7 domains were time management, concentrations, study motivations, test taking, anxiety, metacognition, self-regulations, information processing, and discriminations. The key findings or the indicators. So we also included higher scores indicate better study habits. The GPA data were collected from assessment units. We used Cronbach's alpha for reliability with 0.9 as a significant correlations, the highest significant correlations. The analysis basically was made by utilizing mean, median scores calculated for study habits and GPA. We used the cross-cal Wallace test used for correlations between educational level and study habits. The statistical significance p-value less than 0.05. Conceptual definition of selected important variables. Time management, basically an assessment of students' applications, time management principles to academic situations. The concentration is the assessment of students' ability to direct and maintain attention on academic tasks. Information processing, assessment of how well the students uses imagery, verbal elaborations, organization strategies, and reasoning skills to link between the new informations with existence knowledge. Also, we pointed out the information discrimination, which is an assessment of the student's skills in identifying important information for further study from less important details. The motivations were the assessment of the student's diligence, self-discipline, and willingness to exert effort to complete academic requirements successfully. The test-taking anxiety, basically an assessment of the degree to which the students worries about academic performance during test preparations and test taking. Metacognition and self-regulation, awareness of the study process, monitoring of study effectiveness, and ability to evaluate the process and techniques to suit situational demands and stressful conditions. And this metacognitions for me is the most important study habit factor to maintain and actually enhance an increased grade of successful in GPA. What were the survey results? The participants were 150 questionnaires distributed, 121 fully completed. The students were 27% pre-professional, 50% basic medical science, and 22% clinical science. All male, aged 18 to 23. The reliability and GPA, as I said, we used Cronbach 0.90, and the average GPA were between 4.62 plus minus 0.39. The study habit score, the highest were metacognitions. It reported to be 4 plus minus 0.7, concentrations 4 plus minus 0.6. The lowest were information discriminations, 3 plus minus 0.6, time management 3 plus minus 0.6. Significant associations were as follow: information discriminations less than 0.1 with R positive correlations line 0.311. Then after this information discriminations, the motivations were less than 0.05 with a positive correlation line equal to 0.201. Metacognition were the laser extent. Time management, 85% of the students were punctuals in meetings and classes, 50% set regular study times. And this is the positive correlation line of information discriminations and GPA. Motivations were the second correlating factor between the motivations and GPA with R 0.2, sorry. And you can see here the table that show the GPA with the 6 or 7 components, and you can see the information discriminations recorded the highest correlations, following by motivations. Over 50% of medical students actively participate in the learning process. Exam performance, more than half lose points due to careless mistakes, highlighting the need for review. This is very important, really, message for the students and teachers, just to make sure that you do review of whatever you write on papers. And over 50% enjoy their studies. Only 12% give up on difficult assignment. Pretext anxiety, 81% check over tests to avoid errors, indicating strong evaluation skills. Exam anxiety, majority feel too nervous before exams to perform their test. Only 12% have trouble finishing test on time. Metacognition and self-regulations, 84% recognize the importance of electronic communications, while 79% plan their own learning, 75% set their own learning goals. Time management significantly correlate with age. So the older the students, the significant time management were recorded. However, there were inverse, or there was inverse correlations between GPA and age. No significant correlations between educational levels and parental age and parental educations. Positive correlations, as I said, information discriminations, motivations, especially significant among clinical and basic medical science. Supporting studies, Bohler in 2001 noted that important informations in own words improve performance. Other studies in 2009 showed positive weak correlations between study habits and academic success. Study skills was also shown in a study of 2014, training in workshops and courses improve motivations, information processing, and time management. Focus on time management and motivations. Time management least scored domain 3 plus minus 0.6 with a median of 3.2, improves with age 3.27 plus minus 0.58. Medical interns scored better in time management more than the students. Motivation, 72% of students have a good value or a value of good grades as the motivations, internal motivations or external motivations. The external motivations is important really. Cognitions and appreciations is crucial for academic success. Recommendations, more counseling and guidance on time management, emphasize the study skills training to enhance academic performance. Self-internal control, students who believe in self-internal control and hard work achieve higher academically. Metacognition and self-regulations, highest score domain in study habits, which is linked directly or indirectly to analytical thinking and desirable outcomes. Training in self-regulations and improved performance. Educational courses are important really on setting objectives, study planning, and assessment evaluations, which all will enhance self-regulations. However, some other studies showed, like Nourian's and Zarshanas, showed no significant link between study habits and educational levels or weak positive correlations. The age and GPA, which also confirmed our results that inverse correlations between age and GPA. Positive effects of study habits. Other supportive evidences showed informative courses improve study habits and task accomplishment. International integrations. As I said before, some universities internationally like Dartmouth, York, Ferrum College, and Cook have integrated study skills courses. Positive correlations between age and improved time management. Inverse correlation, as I said, between age and GPA. Metacognitions, a key to success. It was recorded as the highest mean score for metacognition and self-regulation. Students with better metacognition demonstrate higher academic success in futures. Higher metacognitions associated with better GPA, though correlation was weaker. When I say metacognitions or metacognition process, it defines the plan how to approach to learn a topic, specifically how you digest information and process it, and then monitor that by doing practice test. And then at the end, you evaluate the results of your learning when you are finished and modify it accordingly. The conclusions were as follows: effective study habits, particularly metacognitions and motivations, improve academic performance. Curriculum reform should focus on promoting better study habits to enhance learning outcomes. Medical students' motivations, test-taking, anxiety, metacognitions, and self-regulations significantly impact academic performance. GPA is notably influenced by information discriminations, motivations, and metacognitions. Time management correlates with age. So I would say the recommendations would be as follow: incorporate study habits workshop into medical and health science curricula. We should really make sure that there is enforce on courses how to perform time management, how to enhance motivations internally and externally, how to improve metacognitions and improve academic performance. And this will be and would be really provided by supportive environments and guidance for students with poor study habits. At the end, I would like really to thank Dr. Amir, Dr. Khan, and Dr. Burhan for their support, and of course, our university, King Saud bin Abdulaziz, for health science. And thank you. This is my end of my talk. I hope you enjoy the talks and get some lesson of it. Thank you so much.
شكرا دكتور عبد الله. الآن في ختام الجلسات نستمع إلى توصيات المؤتمر، وهناك لجنة للتوصيات في رئاسة الدكتور أحمد باديب. خلاص تعالي. طيب دكتور الأستاذ الدكتور حسين باكثير، ودكتور عبد الحكيم التميمي، وصالح بحول، الأستاذة الدكتورة نهلة، وأنيسة عبود، كانوا هؤلاء لجنة الصياغة. فنستمع الآن إلى توصيات المؤتمر يلقيها علينا الأستاذ الدكتور أحمد باديب.
طيب، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. توصيات المؤتمر الدولي الثالث لجامعة العرب: التعليم الطبي في اليمن نحو رعاية طبية آمنة. يوصي المؤتمر بوضع استراتيجية وطنية للنهوض بالتعليم الطبي تراعي التطورات التقنية والعلمية المتسارعة. يوصي المؤتمر الحكومة بالتعجيل بإنشاء صندوق دعم التعليم الجامعي. يوصي المؤتمر بضمان حياة كريمة لأعضاء هيئات التدريس ومساعديهم في الجامعات اليمنية بما يضمن توقف نزوح العقول إلى خارج الوطن. يوصي المؤتمر بتعزيز دور مجلس الاعتماد الأكاديمي وضمان الجودة لضمان القيام بدوره في إكمال عملية الاعتماد للكليات والمعاهد الصحية. يوصي المؤتمر الحكومة بتقديم الدعم اللازم لكليات الطب للوفاء بمتطلبات الجودة والاعتماد. يوصي المؤتمر بإعادة تأهيل المنشآت الجامعية والصحية وبالذات المتضررة من الحرب لتتمكن من القيام بدورها على الوجه المطلوب. يوصي المؤتمر قيادة وزارة الصحة بإصدار قانون يؤطر العلاقة التكاملية بين الكليات الطبية ومستشفيات وزارة الصحة والقطاع الخاص لخدمة العملية التعليمية، على اعتبار أن مخرجات الكليات الطبية هي مدخلات للقطاع الصحي العام والخاص. يناشد المؤتمر الحكومة ممثلة بوزارة التعليم العالي والوزارات ذات العلاقة بمتابعة الجهات المانحة لإكمال المشاريع المخططة مسبقا، ومنها المستشفى الجامعي لكلية الطب حضرموت وعدن والمدن الطبية في تعز والمهرة وغيرها. يوصي المؤتمر كليات الطب بتبني برامج تطوير أعضاء هيئة التدريس وإعطائهم الفرص للتدريب وابتعاثهم إلى جامعات عالمية مرموقة بما ينعكس إيجاباً على العملية التعليمية. يوصي المؤتمر كليات الطب بتبني المناهج الحديثة وطرق التعليم والتعلم الحديثة وإدخال التكنولوجيا الحديثة في العملية التعليمية. يوصي المؤتمر الجامعات اليمنية بالتقيد بالطاقة الاستيعابية لكليات الطب وفق الطاقة المحددة من قبل كليات الطب. يوصي المؤتمر بضرورة جلوس المسؤولين في وزارة الصحة والسكان والتعليم العالي والبحث العلمي للإسهام في حل مشكلة النقص القادم في أعداد الممرضين والقابلات على وجه الخصوص وبقية الكادر الصحي الوسطي، والعمل على دعم المعاهد الصحية المختلفة. يوصي المؤتمر وزارة التعليم العالي والبحث العلمي بالدعم السخي اللازم للبحث العلمي. وشكرا.
شكرا للأستاذ الدكتور أحمد محمد باديب. بعد قراءة التوصيات وقبل الختام والصورة الختامية مع المشاركين في هذا المؤتمر، يتفضل علينا الأستاذ الدكتور علي محمد باطرفي رئيس المؤتمر ليلقي كلمة ختامية.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الإخوة الحاضرون جميعا، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بالأصالة عن نفسي وبالنيابة عن اللجنة التحضيرية لمؤتمر التعليم الطبي نحو رعاية صحية آمنة، أتوجه بجزيل الشكر لكم جميعا لتحملكم حتى هذه اللحظة والبقاء للاستماع إلى المحاضرات. وأنا أعرف أنه كان يوما ثقيلا، لكن من أجل الفائدة ومن أجل الاطلاع على خبرات المتحدثين سواء كان من جامعة الإمارات أو من هولندا أو من مصر. وأخص بالذكر في الحقيقة الزملاء الذين تجشموا معنا السفر من عدن ومن سيئون، ونشكرهم، وهم أيضا يعني بقوا معنا إلى آخر اللحظات. أكرر شكري وأجدها فرصة أن نعلن عن مؤتمرنا الدولي الرابع تحت عنوان Trauma Care Challenges and Solutions. شكرا.
كرموا بصورة ختامية على المسرح، تفضلوا. الأساتذة الكرام تفضلوا. في بعض منها إذن بهذه الصورة الختامية نودعكم، نتمنى اللقاء بكم إن شاء الله تعالى في المؤتمر الدولي الرابع في القريب العاجل. حتى الملتقى، تقبلوا أجمل وعد ورق تحيانا، والسلام من الله عليكم ورحمة منه وبركاته. أستاذ عادل مشقري هنا ما نلاقي زي القصة.
الله يبارك. يلا.